Yeah, no worries, no worries. Take your time. We're probably gonna have to work out our sound and stuff in the beginning too. There was some sound adjustment issues last time, so.
So, okay, now I'm switched over.
Okay, yeah. Now I'll turn you up on my end a little bit because now you sound a bit more normal. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for people watching the stream late, or for anybody who happens to be in the audience, I don't know if there's anyone in here yet. We're going to be talking about the Ironborn today, and with me is Andi, who we've had on before when we did streams. I want to say it was like almost 2 years ago or something. It's been a little while, and we might get Rusty here in a little bit, so we'll see. And then who knows? Could be some people filter in and out. I'm not really positive, but we were just going to do a surprise stream today. And we're going to talk about the Ironborn. So what we were kind of talking about... four people in the viewer? Okay, there's a couple people showing up now. So we were kind of talking about before we started the video was Anya and I were discussing briefly the Winds of Winter chapters and kind of where Victarion is likely at. And Anya, you were saying that Barristan's kind of reported their... Or in the Barristan chapter, were you saying? Or from Barristan? Or was it Tyrion that we're hearing about the Ironborn showing up?
As far as I can remember, and I might be wrong here, but it is in not the Barristan 1 chapter that we have the complete text of, but in the Barristan 2 chapter, the one that where we only have the that was read, but there's never been like a transcript of it.
I get you. It's the one with the.
The one we don't. As far as I know, yeah, we don't have the text, but we know what's in it. And what's in it is that there's a battle scene, so there's a bit of action with Barristan. And Barristan at some point, like, despite losing a bit, like, he notices the Ironborn have landed. And they are fighting against, I think, the camel cavalry of Karth.
Oh, shit. I
think that's the thing that's
that is epic.
Exact.
That is absolutely epic.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, that's the Barristan 2 chapter, the one that we know what's in it, but we don't have the text, per se.
Okay, yeah, because I remember hearing certain things, and then for some reason I thought that in one of the Tyrions that we got wind of the Ironborn landing on shore.
I think it's mentioned. I think it is mentioned, like... that some people have landed, but I don't know if it's like specifically seen.
Okay.
I know that Barristan sees it. Like,
so, I guess one of the. Someone says I gotta sleep for work tonight, so I'll listen then. Yeah, and hopefully we'll have some fun stuff to talk about. Thanks for showing up in the meantime, though. We'll probably be talking for I don't know a couple hours maybe, so we'll hopefully cover all the best Ironborn topics. But to what we're talking about right now. Oh, my audio is not coming through properly. Okay, hang on. That's weird, because it says that... That's bizarre. Let me see if I can just turn up my volume. Let me know in chat if it's not coming through at all, or if it's just low volume. I'm gonna... Yeah, let me know if it's just low or if it's off. I'll try to make some corrections. But yeah, so just to keep things going really quick here. So with the Ironborn, obviously, I think one of the big questions is what is going to happen. Are they going to defeat the Slaver army? Number one, outright, which seems likely, and then number two, are they going to end up fighting Barristan's forces? In the heat of battle, do we think that everybody can tell each other apart?
Well, I mean, that's a bit difficult to say. I mean, it's very much chaos over there.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Tyrion chapter where, the second sons defect back over to Daenerys, to Daenerys' side.
That'll certainly flip the battle, because the second sons will basically start pouring out on horseback from inside the Yunkashi lines. Yunkish,
yeah, Yunkish.
I was like, how do you say the plural again?
The Yunkashi.
The Yunkashi. Yeah. That's when the Tyrashi and the Yunkai join forces together. But it's only the ones below 30. All the Yunkashi.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Or to take it a
No.
step further, it's child Kakashi from Naruto, the young Kashi. Sorry, sorry, that was too much. That was too much. Go ahead.
Okay, gotta reel it back in. No, it's like it's just a very chaotic scene that the Ironborn are getting into. I mean, we're talking about the Ironborn don't even know who's on whose side. They just know Yunkai is fighting Meereen.
No,
Like
that's why I kind of wonder if
they don't know which forces exactly. Yeah.
So I'll only pitch you a weird scenario. You can kind of tell me what you think about this. So you've heard obviously before the theory that when they try to turn back in and go back into the city, the crossbowmen are going to start shooting at them, and the gates are going to be closed, and the Shavepate's going to betray them basically. And so I kind of wondered if, let's just say that theory holds true, and let's say Barristan's killed in the battle, and this could lead to a very interesting scenario of the Ironborn leading elements of the Second Sons and elements of Daenerys' forces to retake Meereen and like the second sack of Meereen. And so I wanted to know if you had any thoughts on the second sack of Meereen, because that was a scenario that I was like, I don't know if it's likely, but it's possible. Like if that other theory is true, you know?
Yeah, no, this is certainly possible. Because I don't see a lot of like the actual forces really caring. I mean, you have the Stormcrows who went out with Barristan in the fight, so they maybe still exist. You have the Windblown who also just defected back to Daenerys.
Yeah. You got the Mother's Men, and you got who are the other ones? She has 2 companies of freemen that are pretty strong enough to fight at least. I don't know what their numbers are, but they seem like they had...
The Mother's Men and wait.
Yeah, Simon Stripeback I think leads the Mother's Men, and then the other, there's another one that is led by I'm forgetting the name, but there's another commander of the Freemen that leads them. And if anyone in the chat, if you know the commanders, the officers of the free companies under Daenerys, the freed companies of freemen, then let us know. I know Simon Stripeback or something like that. I think it's Simon Stripeback is one of them. Marcellin. I think Marcellin.
Marcellin is the Mother's Men.
Yes. I'm mixing up my commanders, but there's a series of people who are they're basically chosen leadership among the free fighters, and they're not Unsullied. They're their own separate forces.
Yes,
I think the Unsullied have trained with them, but
yeah, it's the Freed brothers who have Simon Stripeback.
Yeah. So there's those companies, there's them, and then there's the Unsullied themselves. There's quite a lot of like there's actually a lot of pretty fit, fresh, high morale fighting forces. And in the Unsullied case, like at this point, kind of high experience.
Yeah,
they've done a lot of fighting on top of already being like a fresh, super high morale green unit. Like like they did a bunch of fighting, and then and then now they're veteran high morale. Like they're quite I would say as long as they form up, I don't expect them to get rolled over.
Yeah, the very, very important thing here is for the siege is that Meereen is only likely to survive due to the sheer incompetence of Yunkai, because all the other guys who send forces don't sound nearly as incompetent as the Yunkish.
Yeah.
And yet, here they are, on the verge of losing this battle.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong on the layout of the siege, but if I recall correctly, the masters with basically all the bickering, squabbling ones comprise more or less one large flank of the siege, so they're kind of the weak link in the whole encirclement.
Yeah,
because the city's not fully encircled, exactly. Right? They can't get all the way across the Skazan on both sides, or can they? They did, didn't they? I think they put a Legion of Gis on one weird side of the Skazan. It's like on the opposite bank or some shit.
I don't have a map in my mind.
Yeah, there's some maps out there of it, and I can't think of them off the top of my head either. But I could swear that they did something like that. Oh, hang on, Rusty's sending me a message really quick. We may have one more person joining us here for some Ironborn discussion. So, yeah, no, I for some reason I thought it was not an entire encirclement, but maybe they did mostly encircle the city.
Yeah, no, they did. The thing is, though, like, Meereen is not on two banks of a river. Meereen is definitely
It's on. It's basically
It's
up against
on
the
one
river.
bank.
Yeah, it's up against.
Yeah, it's
the
up
river.
against the river. It's not spanning both sides.
Yeah, that's why I was pretty positive that they were just surrounding on the side that was not, or sorry, the other side that was not that was touching the river. But I was like, no, they must be on the other side with the city. Like, it's just in my head. I'm like, how does this look again? Either way, well, the Ironborn, showing up are definitely going to be probably enough to scatter at least portion of the siege, and then the question becomes, do they have to re-siege the city, or are they portion of the battle of re-sieging the city, or does their showing up change the whole dynamic? Now I guess that all kind of depends on if you believe that the Shavepate was going to betray everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I was way more confident of it when I was previously. I can say that, but I'm no longer as confident as I used to be in the Shavepate betraying the forces of Daenerys. But it would be, in my opinion, in his MO.
I was never
because
really
he is
sold
a
on
social
it,
climber.
Yeah, I never was really sold on it, but because his power seems to stem from Daenerys, let's say the Shavepate does betray everybody, then how does he hold any power in the city? How does he not get killed the next day, right? in the next civil war inside of Meereen? How his power entirely, at least in my opinion, seems to entirely stem from Dany creating this new social order, more or less, or a new enough organization in the social order that people can move ranks,
Yeah. It's a bit complicated here. Now, obviously, it really depends on how you read the Shavepate, because, it's very, some people don't read him as this opportunist that I read him as. So, I've encountered people who've told me, no, I don't think he would. Isn't he, loyal?
I think he's an opportunist, because that's basically how he's defined, is he's taken this opportunity to really sort of, push this movement, because he was one of the first ones to start the head shaving, and he's very pro Daenerys, and he's like, we got to change all the old way. His ticket to power seems to be that there is change, and you can believe him as genuine or not. It seems to me to be irrelevant. The point is that he doesn't get to do anything or have any power or without Daenerys. Without that shift up, the Shavepate's just some guy, he's not some guy wielding power. At least it didn't seem like so.
Yeah, and especially what I think is very much the case is that the Shavepate, if you look at his actions throughout Dance, he seems way more focused on punishing the other noble houses of Meereen, as opposed to really advocating for, actual freedmen's rights.
He's an opportunist, and that's you can believe him in terms of whether or not he's a true social reformer or not. I tend to not think so. I think he's more of an opportunist, but to me, his opportunity is that Daenerys is there. Blood says, I find Resnack to be more interesting. We could talk about the whole Meereenese arrangement, but I think unfortunately, even talking about the Shavepate is drifting us a little far from the Ironborn. So I don't want to get too deep into Resnack territory, not only just because that brings up the question of the perfume seneschal and yada yada yada. To wrap it back around to Victarion, and then maybe we'll skip a beat here until Rusty shows up, and we can come back to Victarion.
I'm here.
Oh, Rusty's here. Okay, cool.
Oh my god! I'm sorry, we didn't notice.
Do you want to give us your thoughts on the Ironborn's position in Meereen? We were talking about the idea of maybe if the Shavepate betrays everybody, if that theory is true, maybe the Ironborn are a leading element in the second sacking of Meereen. I didn't know if you had any wacky thoughts on that, or on the new chapters or that crap,
I honestly hadn't put any thought towards the Ironborn and Meereen together. I know that that's where the story is headed, but when I tuned in and you guys were talking about Meereen, I was like, wait, what does this have to do with the Ironborn? I was like, oh shit, they're about to fall on Meereen pretty hard. So it all depends on. Because Dany's not back yet, right?
Yeah,
Meereen.
She's MIA, and I at least don't think that she'll be returning mid-battle. I think that this will be a but That's another thought. When will she return? Do you think that will affect what Victarion does? I mean, how does Victarion know where to go, where to find her? What does he do if she's not there post battle? Like where does that leave him? Right?
Yeah, I mean, if we were gonna write it as dramatically as we could, she would show up with her dragon at the climax of the battle, and everybody would fall to their knees and stop fighting or something like that. So, if we were making a TV show, I think that's what would happen. But, damn, I really don't know. I think when Victarion gets there, I think Daenerys won't be back.
Okay.
And he's obviously going to be his same stubborn self that he always is. And that might lead to him leading an expedition out into the Dothraki Sea.
That's an interesting thing to think about.
Just because he's such a stubborn, and he really needs Daenerys.
Maybe the old Jocko Ram, Romo. Maybe Romo survives, and there's some people with enough experience in the Dothraki with enough experience to chase her down. I was gonna say, what do you guys think about the idea of him confronting Barristan and killing him in either an accidental misunderstanding, you put in quotations, or a duel?
Huh? That would be fucking epic, man.
Yeah, because I mean,
my god.
Honestly, I am not nearly as down on this. I think Barristan is unlikely to live long enough to see.
Okay, you think he's dead before Vicky gets to him?
Oh,
yeah.
Really? Do you see him having the same back alley death that he got in the show?
No, not a back alley.
Okay.
You see him falling in battle. He dies falling in battle, probably. That's the theory I've heard, is that it's not that they lose the battle, it's that he's in the vanguard and he's doing the most dangerous cavalry maneuvers, and so the vanguard dies, more or less, as they're killed in the battle.
I bet. Here's what happens. Okay. There's not... Okay. Did either of you grow up with, in the church? Any kind of Christian church? No.
No, my parents were like
yes,
rabidly,
I grew up
rabidly
quite Catholic.
Okay, so there's this story in the Old Testament about King David where he, from the rooftop of his palace, sees a beautiful woman bathing, and he basically sleeps with her, and then this woman is married to one of his military commanders. So he invites his military commander to come home for like an honor sort of thing so that he'll spend the night with his wife so that they won't get suspicious when the wife gets pregnant. But the guy is such a tough soldier that he's like, my men are sleeping in the field, so he ends up sleeping on the palace steps that night instead of going home to his wife. So King David sends this guy to the vanguard on purpose, and then has his other commanders fall back so that this guy dies in combat so he can marry this guy's wife.
Oh.
I see something like that attempting, at least, to be done to Barristan. Whether it's the Shavepate, whether it's some other opportunist. I think if we see him falling in battle, it may be the result of
other people plotting to make sure they live and he dies.
Yeah, I was trying to think. There's a dramatic word that fits there, but I can't think of it at the moment.
Well, it's an interesting thing you say.
Yeah, I think that's how treachery. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Treachery.
He actually makes a paralleling, not an identical, but a paralleling combat about Daario Naharis. He says in the news chapter that we get to hear him talk in, he says if they find Daario Naharis, cut him free, give him a sword, and let him command and fight. And then he thinks to himself, if he should die, all the better. The queen can then come home and he's not a problem anymore. That's paraphrasing, but, right. He's like, well, if he dies, we actually lose a problem there, So interesting you say that just because that talk is already in the air, and it literally comes from him. He's thinking a similar thought about somebody. So if, for example, the battle tilts and they all have to line up for a big countercharge or some sort of thing happens, perhaps maybe the Tattered Prince or the leader of the Stormcloaks, or come to the Cat, Bloodbeard, or one of these heels, maybe they don't charge as hard, and he goes in on the spear wall and dies first. And, who knows? I could see it. I don't know if I want to say it's the most likely, but I just think it's interesting because of that parallel where I'm like, I mean, that sort of stuff's being thought about at least.
Yeah, like I can see him, going on a suicide mission too. That seems like his sort of deal.
Now, do you think he'd?
He's done that before, right? That's what he did when he pulled Robert out.
Do you think he'd survive Meereen and then get murked later in a follow-up battle, or do you think he's maybe toast there?
Well, why is it that you guys are so convinced that he dies? I'm sort of playing along with that.
I'm not convinced that he dies. I'm convinced that it's a high possibility. Like, I think it's very likely, but the thing is that, everyone's expecting him to die, so the question becomes, like, what was George thinking when he was writing it? Was he thinking people would be expecting him to die and it's going to be a subversion, or was he not thinking about that at all? So it's hard to pin down, exactly. To me, it's like he's lived through so much, and I almost feel like he could live a bit longer and see a bit more bad stuff happen and be involved in some important decisions.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what the value would be to killing him here. Like, what does that do? Right. What does it mean? But...
Well, it's also like...
They make a big deal about they're carrying all these banners, right? And so people talk about that. They're like, oh, he's carrying the dragon banner, he's carrying the Kingsguard symbol, and they're carrying the horn, and it's all important to signaling all the battles and stuff, and if he falls... So it's basically an argument about whether or not you consider certain things to be Chekhov's guns or not. Whether you think he's going to die.
Yeah. I can get a bit into this
Chekhov's wooden bench.
I'm a bit more convinced about
go for it.
Dying here.
Go for it, Ani. Tell us about why you think it's set up for him to die and why this is a good time. I guess
I'm going to be real. There's several reasons here. One is a bit more meta. It's a bit more in the meta narrative here, and it is the Winds of Winter has to be a sequel to both Feast and Dance, and that includes a lot of POV characters, and books but just due to physics cannot be too thick, or else the binding doesn't work.
Yeah, so we got to thin the herd, so he maybe is low on the list of priority.
So we have to think about which characters do we cut as POV characters, because otherwise they take up a lot of space. And then you think, so how many POVs are around Meereen at this point? You have Tyrion. You have Barristan. You have Victarion.
We got Dany, kind of.
And Dany's eventually. Of those, one has to go.
Wait, that was a list of what?
POVs around Meereen that are going to be in Winds.
Area, yeah.
Like, it's Barristan,
so
Tyrion,
POVs POVs for when the Ironborn get to Meereen, you're saying?
Yeah, or just around Meereen in general, just like how many POV characters are in the vicinity of Meereen.
Okay.
So he's saying basically like we got 4, we got to maybe thin it down to 3, and this is what I've heard before too. It's also another argument of like he's got to trim some, and he said he's going to trim some, so who could we look at to see who's going to not make the cut, But I always think of Barristan as a character that
because Barristan
might need to make that cut. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm not totally.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but Barristan does at this moment feel disposable.
That is
like
one
the whole.
reasoning.
His whole thing is just that him riding next to whoever claims the crown is supposed to give them more legitimacy. That's it. I mean, he's a great fighter. And that's helpful. But his main thing is the thing that everybody was concerned about when he disappeared from King's Landing was who's he going to show up next to, because this is going to provide them legitimacy.
Yeah.
So that's his only purpose.
I'll actually tack on one more to this, because there is one thing that does make me think that his death would be thematically appropriate and likely, and so on and so forth. He's one of the few voices of reason that's going to be left around, with Dany. And weirdly enough, even Dario Naharis is becoming a voice of reason. That's how kind of wild things are getting, and because he's you got to do your court. You got to go to court. You got to show up and rule and stuff. Like, that's not horrifically bad advice. And then if we think about people like Victarion who's closing in and like Tyrion who's closing in, like, comparatively speaking, Dario is going to be the level head in the room if he survives. Like, so,
yeah,
we kind of need to remove Barristan because Barristan could offer helpful insights and he could create a Kingsguard that could actually create power center that is healthy, healthier than Victarion and Tyrion around Daenerys, So I'm saying
I just don't see George bringing him this far along just to
dump him.
Just to,
yeah,
just to like. I'm trying to think of a. Sorry, all the analogies I can come up with are X-rated. But yeah, like they shouldn't. I don't see George bringing this guy along all this time just for a little sploot at the end.
Yeah, so we've secretly turned it into a Barristan stream because whether Barristan will die or not is such an interesting mystery.
It is. It's an interesting
mystery, right?
I wanted to say that I think it to be in some sense thematic to Dany because I think one of the big themes of Dance that Dany goes through is that she tries to be this sort of good ruler, and she attempts to be something that she is not because she is sometimes feels more like fire and blood and identifies more with the Dothraki. And she settles down in Meereen. She tries to rule as she thinks she should in Westeros, and it fails, and it fails, and it leads with her in the Dothraki Sea. And I think this, coupled with Barristan's loss, and frankly, I think Missandei is also gonna die.
Who?
Missandei?
Yeah.
Missandei? Ooh. Yeah. The little translator scribe.
Yes.
Now she's currently alive and well in Meereen, right?
Yeah, she's currently fine. I'm not positive about her death. I think that she will end up fleeing Dany or something like that. I think that she will become estranged and flee. But continue. Go ahead.
Let me explain this, because I personally think that one of the things that will happen, regardless of whether our good friend, the Shavepate, betrays Barristan or not, I think that Shavepate will take the opportunity of, Barristan not being around to kill those hostages that he's been trying to get killed all throughout Dance.
Oh.
And I think Missandei will get caught up in that because she's around them a lot.
That is a really interesting theory, and honestly, you should make a video about that because I've never heard that one before. That's fucking fascinating.
It's something I came up with.
Yeah, no, make a video.
And
chat pressure Ronnie to start making videos.
Go put it in the Discord before you forget.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. That's fascinating. I've never heard that, but it's very interesting because you're right. There's this whole weird undercurrent where he's constantly trying to get the hostages, and that goes back to him and his weird opportunistic power play kind of stuff, his own politics.
And what I get at is that Barristan's loss is one of those dominoes, and really the lack of the voice of reason that leads Dany onto like a more darker path. I'm not saying she goes mad. I don't think that's what's
But yeah,
happen.
It just takes away all
I
the
think
reasonable...
people will call her mad.
It just takes away all the reasonable people from around her. She's got no voices but people who want revenge on their siblings. And
that's also kind of...
Blood brought up one other one. Marwyn. She's gonna have Marwyn around. So it replaces her old wise character with another old wise character that maybe isn't a super great guy either. We don't know too much about Marwyn, but
Yeah.
But we have reason to suspect that
we know for a fact that Marwyn is on his way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes.
He caught the cinnamon.
We do.
He caught the cinnamon wind.
Oh, that's gonna be.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fascinating.
It's gonna be wild. So to take things back to the Ironborn. When things wrap up, however they wrap up, whatever resolves with Barristan, whatever happens to Meereen, Victarion is, in my opinion, probably going to still be a POV. I think he's going to maybe die in a battle with Euron or something. But, so how do you guys see Dany and Victarion's relationship shaping up, number one? And then if you want to comment on, like, how do you see him interacting with the other characters as they go back to Westeros? Like, what do you guys think is going to happen there? That's what I've been thinking about for a while.
Honestly, it's pretty difficult. Because on one hand, there's the whole school of thought of, okay, Victarion wouldn't wait around, would he now? There's that school of thought that he says, oh, no hot girl I can get, and, stick it to the man being Euron in this case. Yeah, I'm outie. Fuck this shit.
But not before he loots the city.
Pardon the
or at least tries.
But
right? Yeah.
it's very much in character for Victarion, so I got a bit there.
Bugger the city.
Bugger the city. Bugger this.
It's only a curse on the other side of the pond.
In my opinion, he'd at least want a dragon. And
yes.
And so I think that for him, he's leaving with a dragon one way or another. If it's Daenerys, if it's a dragon, then if the dragon, he's taking one way or another. He's leaving with a dragon. So
I'm just imagining, like, I've gone and forgotten the name of the prince. Who was the Dornish prince that got dragoned? Quentin, thank you. I'm imagining a scene where Victarion has convinced himself that he can just take a dragon and he Quentins himself.
I don't think Vic is... a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people think that Vic is also going to die very early and wins. I don't think so at all. I think Vic is...
kind of got to die against Euron.
Yeah, I think he has good contention for surviving till Green, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's...
And...
honestly, it started that way before I had a thought.
The thing is that makes it a bit weird is that I don't think Victarion himself will be all that necessary to Dany. Like, yes, Dany will need a fleet to get back to Westeros, but there were already fleets there, manned by slaves from Volantis and Karth.
I think it's the skill of the sailors and stuff. And also the other thing too is their ability to like the Ironborn are pretty good at a couple of things. One is sailing, one is naval combat, and the other one is cracking open cities that have seaway access.
Okay,
and we know that one of those places that they have to go back to more or less is Volantis, and so like I feel like if he's got a dragon at least, this ups the ante like out of control of where she has to listen to him, maybe even start offering marriage pact or something, even if she doesn't want to do it. Who knows? But even still, I think even without it, he's pretty valuable. He's pretty valuable, and he's also a claimant to the Iron Throne, in theory. So like, he's got a fair amount going for him, and he could totally lie. I don't think Victarion's a very good liar. He's not great with words, but in theory, he could just. What if he claimed to be a lot more than he was, right? He could be like, well, I'm the leader of the Ironborn, and I'm, the Kraken Throne King, and I got 1,000 ships back home because he plans to kill his brother. He thinks he's gonna kill Euron somehow. That's his internal monologue that he's been having for like a whole book now. So I don't know. To me, it's like I wouldn't put it past Victarion to simply just claim that he's the king of the Ironborn. And what, is she gonna not believe him? Like, how prove him wrong? How would you do that?
Hold on, let me send a raven.
Exactly.
Halfway. Well, actually, I'm sorry, entirely across the known world.
I mean, his monologue internally, at least, is that he's going to convince her to marry him somehow and flaunt that in Euron's face. And I'm like, that probably is not going to happen unless you like fucking just lie your ass off, or like maybe you could do something crazy, like if you got a dragon and lied your ass off and brought a fleet and won a bunch of battles, maybe then you could pull this off. But like, I feel like, I don't know, it's tough. It's a tall order, but that's what he's saying he's gonna do. He's like, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna somehow parlay this into me being everything that Euron currently is, plus Daenerys, and that's a tall order.
The thing is, and all about that, is that I see Dany seeing value in Victarion and wanting to keep him on side.
Mm-hmm.
He wants her in marriage. I don't know if that's gonna work.
Yeah, so who knows? I'm just saying he's valuable either way, and then if he has a dragon, he's very valuable. If he's just Victarion, he's pretty damn valuable. And then if he does talking of himself up at all, he could kind of up the value, you know. Ross also brings up the magic horn. The horn is an element, and how he chooses to use it and what's he going to do with it? Like, these are all big questions, you know? So that's also one that we're not really talking about. The horn is probably one of the harder elements to figure out exactly how it's going to factor in, although the horn, we know what it does. So, right? We know what it does.
Well, we know what it says it does. I can't help but notice that, like, the guy who blew it during the King's Moot didn't have any dragons flocking to him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What it seemed to do is it bothered everybody, and then they all liked Euron. So to me, the effect the horn is quite clear.
Barbecued the inside.
Yeah,
and barbecued the inside of the horn sounder.
Some random dude. Yeah. So to me, the effect is quite clear. It kills the dude who blows it, and it makes everybody like you. Mm-hmm. And that can wax and wane probably, but like it gets in everyone's mind, it fucks up your brain, and you're like, ow, my brain. But then for some reason you look over there at the guy in front of you, and you go, oh, that guy's pretty cool. I guess we should make him the king. Like, I feel like that's what it does. It just pacifies the shit out of people, and then they look up and they're like, oh, the guy on the statue, or the guy out there on the platform. We like that guy. That Euron guy up there in the front of the stage, he's pretty cool. We like him. He should be king.
Damn.
That's kind of what it seems to do. So I'm like, that's more or less is what I expected to do when he gets to Meereen. Is probably they'll all be arguing, and then he'll be like, blow the horn, and everyone will be like, we like that Euron guy. He's really cool. That fucked up noise a minute ago sucked. We like him.
So chat is asking, and this is a good question, I think.
Oh, let's see.
How do we know for a fact that horn sounder that he used is dead? Who was it that?
They claim to have cut him open and looked at his lungs. So the only person we have to trust on that is Euron. But I didn't really think of a reason why he'd be lying about it. And the guy, I think, did like cough up smoke and shit. So like, I don't know, man. Unless it like ripped a fat one beforehand, and it was just like, you know, that was just the residual. I think he might have died. I'm pretty sure he might have fucking died. But I don't know. Like I said, we really. So this brings up an interesting question, right? So it's always said that Euron's gifts are poison. You know what I mean? So like,
yes,
like, is it literal in that sense? Like things he give you will kill you, or is it like they'll ruin your life? How literal do we take it? If we take it, and you can take it both ways. In my opinion, if we take it pretty literal, though, it's like anything he gives you is going to kill you, in which case the horn probably kills people. I'd trust that one. It's poison, you know? And then, like, he did give him 3 people, so I'm like, maybe he feels like this horn going to have to blow in a couple times, and it's, you know, you can only blow it once and you die. I don't know. So
the question is,
what if you only blow it a little bit?
That maybe you can blow it very lightly, and you get stronger and stronger and stronger until you're eventually like the Neil Armstrong or the Louis Armstrong, the Louis Armstrong of like the dragon horn, you know, and your voice would be like really deep and gravelly from all that dragon horn, but you'd be able to play like a sick song on that thing, you know. Maybe that's the case.
I'm writing that down. That's canon.
Back in Valeria, there's like bands of people playing the dragon horns. And they're like blowing out smoke out their nose and stuff. And you're like, guys are crazy. I can't believe they can survive that.
Oh damn.
There's one guy just doing like a French inhale with it. Going off.
There's all different sizes of dragons. They got all different sizes of horns. So we're getting off into fantasy land here. This is like the Cheech and Chong version of this. So thoughts on the
somebody call Brian Blessed.
Yeah, thoughts on the dragon horn though. If we have more thoughts,
There's-
let me know, because it is an Ironborn thing,
Yeah.
Is it now?
I mean,
yeah,
because
it's
Euron,
a Valyrian.
it's a Valyrian thing, but Euron brought it over, so we could talk about Euron bringing
Okay,
it. Like,
I see what you mean.
If you got thoughts on the Kingsmoot, like what it does, or if it does nothing, like I've heard both of those theories. The horn does nothing; it's just a bunch of bullshit, and it's like a fake power symbol. It's all smoke and mirrors, basically. And then I've heard what Ross is saying, which is the horn makes the slaves get in line because of Valeria and needing a manner of control.
Yeah.
I mean, you are asking the slaves to go into volcanic tunnels where they regularly die of volcano, so like, probably not a bad argument. But looks like if you guys got other thoughts, I'm totally open to them too.
I don't know.
So thoughts as to what the horn does?
Yeah, or like I say, or about how it's going to be used.
Okay.
Anything about it.
Okay. So this is very interesting because all we have to go on for anything really with this is Euron's word. But then who is it that translates the writing on it? Was that one of the wizards that he picked up, or did it happen before that?
It's Makoro, I believe.
Makoro is the one that gives it its name.
Yeah, Makoro they pick up out of the water, and he was traveling with Tyrion.
Okay.
And he comes from the Red Priests.
Yes,
So,
he was also sent to advise Daenerys, by the way.
Yeah.
He's the guy who was sent by the High Temple in Volantis.
Okay.
So
Also very sketch figure.
Yet another bad influence heading Daenerys' way.
Also very sketch figure because they believe that she's
the whole religion.
Yeah, she's like a holy R'hllor thing, But
yeah.
But also they have a semi. I don't even say semi. They have a politically overlapping motive, which is that they think that she's going to knock down the Order of Volantis. They think that she's going to bring. The Widow of the Waterfront talks about this. It's like parlance amongst the informed that it is believed that she is going to liberate Volantis and knock over the social order there. And that's that ancient order of behind the black walls of the pure blood dynasties and shit. So
they think who's going to do this?
Daenerys.
Dany.
And the Red Priest apparently has been preaching about it and shit, and they just don't have enough soldiers to go knock over the temple because most of the slave soldiers worship R'hllor.
Interesting.
So that's
basically the temple is about to ally. Yeah, that's a thing in Volantis.
Yeah.
The Red Faith is about to ally itself
with Daenerys.
With a slave revolt and Daenerys because Benero believes that she is Azor Ahai.
Yeah. And so there's going to be some. This is why I was saying that what I think is going to happen in Volantis is that the Ironborn are going to be the essential element in cracking open the city, and that's going to open it up to her land forces breaking in, and they're going to knock over all of Volantis, and they're going to put the ancient Black Gate city of all the nobles to the torch and the sword, right? Which that's, to be fair, that's good. I like that, but it's probably going to get out of control. There's probably going to be fires that spill over. Like when we read about the city I believe is already has burned down a couple times and is pretty susceptible to burning. And we're talking the Ironborn, so burning the Lannister fleet, and we're talking huge uncontrolled armies, and we're talking maybe dragons flying around for fun, right? Maybe not doing any combat because it's not big enough yet, but her being seen on a dragon, probably pretty inspiring, probably pretty, who knows? But I don't know, not sure. But
yeah,
I see a high likelihood for some really drastic destruction in the liberation of Volantis. And this is how I see many of her operations going down. In many of her operations, there's this high chance of something going drastically fucking wrong, in spite of the actual aims not being that horrible. I'm not great. I'm not saying Daenerys is great, but she's not horrible. Like by comparison to the people currently ruling Volantis, freeing the slaves, that's not horrible, right? Now, her governance, the management, not how the slavers were dealt with earlier. There's so many things that are out of control, but you know what I mean? I don't want to say that, like Andy said earlier, like, she might not have to go mad for things to go fucking bonkers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, she can even have a good heart and some bad people around her and make some decisions that have to just simply lead to some unfortunate accidents, and that is simply enough for. And then I also think that the people are going to rub off on her. I think that she's going to get a lot more revenge oriented and feel and she already feels this bloodline dynastic entitlement to the throne, which is kind of this unhealthy thing she inherited from Viserys, and so, like. Yeah. Even that, she really is. Her story, it really is living more Viserys' dream than her dream. She's just cosplaying Viserys, you know, but nicer Viserys, benevolent Viserys, which I don't think is a good life, and I don't think that's like going to get you good outcomes, right? So that's what I would say is there's a whole bunch of just chance of things going wrong, and the Ironborn are a wonderful element in that because they love to sack shit brutally, and they love to burn stuff. Particularly fleets. So, you know.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but yeah, you guys' thoughts
that's
on
one of the
stuff, you know.
That is one of the arguments.
I was just familiarizing myself with a map of the whole area. I'll put it in the Discord chat. But go ahead and talk. I'm just putting an image in.
Yeah, I was going to say that the Ironborn, I think, is like the whole Ironborn involvement in wins, specifically with Victarion and all. I think is like one of the places where the community just has no consensus whatsoever when what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
that's partially because Victarion has been kind of a bit treated as just a meme character to some extent, meaning that he has not featured in that many serious, like, big attempts at theories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so what do you think? Do you think there's any possibility that he's the expendable one?
Victarion?
I don't think he's expendable, but to be fair...
Yeah, that seems pretty unlikely.
I know, right? It'd be weird to write him in, like, and then just have him die in, like, the beginning of Wins. That'd be a little weird.
That being said...
But I meant to bring this up kind of back near the beginning. It's just, like, Maester Aemon, okay? The way he was set up and then just died, like, that tells us that George is more than happy to just have someone just, like, die with no meaning to it. So, who knows what he has in stock?
Yeah, I don't know.
For us, but
I did kind of feel
logically, no Victarion should not be the disposable one.
Was kind of forecasted. I thought, like, I think Sam even says that. Somebody says that he could die just being moved, and I was like, the man is like 110. Like, he could die being moved, like, across the room. What, they're gonna move him across the world? Like, no.
That's literally said in the like Sam says it in like his chapter.
Yeah, so
I feel
like that.
I mean, John wasn't even.
That was very intentional, like, to close the door. Like, George was like, "This is an open door that could teach us some important shit," and you're like, "Yes, let's walk through it." And he's like, "Let's not," and he closed that shit, and you're like, "No."
Man.
So I felt like it had a lot of purpose. It was just, you could argue, sinister purpose. It was the purpose of shunting the audience out of critical information to keep the mystery chugging along and to force that mystery to only exist in certain channels. And, you know, that's probably Bran-related channels, maybe? I don't know,
Which is probably the reason that we haven't, which is the same reason that we haven't met Howland Reed yet.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was straight up at a convention. They asked, like, why haven't we met him yet? And George was like, he knows too much. That's it. I can't bring him into the story yet. And he knows everything.
Yeah, that's kind of a bit of a problem. But still, like, regardless of, like, Victarion, like, I wanted to say, we say that, but keep in mind, I don't know how much you guys have read up on the like, leaks.
The Cushing leaks?
Yeah, the Cushing stuff. Yeah, the Cushing leaks.
Yeah. Or the Cushing files.
Yes, the Cushing files, where we saw a lot of...
Peter Cushing is leaking?
He is.
We saw a lot of drafts for Feast in it, which also contained dance stuff because they were actually dance drafts before the books.
Okay, so I haven't actually heard of this before. What are these leaks?
Yeah, dump the Cushings on us because I haven't heard of them much for Victarion. I've seen some of the posts and some of the things for other stuff, but I haven't.
So basically, George stores a lot of his correspondence at Texas A&M University in its Cushing library. And besides the Dan stuff, which got locked up after it got leaked that Cold Hands isn't Benjen, you know how there's like the leak from it was like one of his manuscripts that he sent into his publisher, and there was a scribble from his editor to asking about Cold Hands. Is like, is this Benjen? And then Gurm wrote on it then with a red pen and said no. No period.
That was painful.
Imagine.
That was painfully obvious.
Just imagine if he's lying to his own.
Lying to his editor. That'd be funny, yeah.
Lying to his own editor.
Was gonna say, I thought it was painfully obvious that it wasn't Benjen because it's also painfully obvious that Cold Hands is Rhaegar Targaryen.
Oh God!
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
My God, no! Please. All right. And going into this, with besides
out there slowly spending his rubies.
Besides the specifically dance drafts, nothing else got necessarily locked up. So you can actually see his papers if you get access to that library if you ask. And you can sort through them and see them. And there's this user on Reddit called GSteph who went there and looked at the Feast drafts, which also included lots of dance stuff. And specifically relating to Victarion, there's not a lot of like changes that got made to like his stuff because the Ironborn stuff was some of the first stuff he wrote because it was supposed to be part of the mega prologue. So a lot of that stuff got written very early in the process. And because of that, he had a lot of them written up. And then he also sent a chapter list with one of these drafts to his publisher, and it had another Victarion chapter in which he was supposed to die. That's what George wrote in that fucking like manuscript, which was only like a halfway done Feast.
Yeah.
That he sent in to his publisher, and it just wrote there another Victarion chapter after the one in the Shields where he died.
So he was originally gonna die after the Shields?
As far as I remember, that's how it goes, yeah.
Well, let's just say even if that is earlier than it actually was, even if he was gonna die in the Monkey Islands or something like that, like, you know, like which island chain are they being? They're boarding the monkeys board the ships and they can't get rid of them.
Isle of Cedars, that's in like Slaver's Bay.
Yeah. So even if he was killed in the Isle of Cedars or something like that, or killed in I don't know, killed somewhere around there, he's still he would still be considerably more alive, is what I was trying to say, than he was supposed to be. But if he's supposed to die in the fucking Shields, then that means that George basically altered the whole story to give him this new story with the hand and everything. So,
yeah,
I'm like,
essentially.
Like, that would be, to me, pretty strong evidence that he's supposed to live if George has given him this whole crazy hand story, you know?
Yeah, I brought this up just let's not get too excited and say that, oh, definitely not killing him if there's some narrative purpose.
Yeah.
George doesn't necessarily always plan this stuff ahead.
Well,
and he can give characters that weren't supposed to be this big deal more
you guys,
stuff.
You guys riff it out for a few seconds. I gotta use the bathroom really quick, and then we'll jump over and we'll talk about Euron. We'll kind of switch gears a little bit. We can just go back to Victarion too, but we've been on Victarion and the Slaver's Bay and things just surrounding him for a long time, so be back in just a second.
One thing I will go on about is that I think a lot of the fandom has now cast Victarion as just dumb as a rock, and it's like, well, that's not exactly true.
It's understandable, but yeah.
It's understandable to an extent why they say that. Yeah, sure, but like it's a bit exaggerated, like comically so.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like he isn't like completely like stupid. He is just not the most intelligent person ever.
He strikes me as sometimes, and I'm saying this as an autistic person, as very, very, very autistic.
See, I couldn't make that claim. I'm neurotypical, so I can't really say those things.
It's just there are some times where he's so like fixated on the way something should be instead of the way something is that just like resonates with the way I felt a lot as a child, and you know still do to this day. But yeah, so that's I guess you could call it a little bit autistic coded, but he's definitely the thing is that's why he comes across as kind of stupid sometimes, is because he's so focused on something else, or he is, you know, looking at the world the way it is and sort of just not accepting it, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think I do want to get this in. I think that what's his name? Patchface is going to be significant in whatever happens moving forward with the Ironborn.
That's very okay. Patchface is at Castle Black. I'm like a bit confused as to how, but sure.
I think he's met the drowned god.
Okay.
I think
is
that
saying that he is trying to remember who was the one that gave Victarion the wound. I'm sorry, it's Sari. Yes,
yeah,
Talbot Sari.
It's Talbot Sari. So I'm back now. It's the Knight of the Rose, right? Or what, he has like a rose and something else on his shield, right?
Yes, it's a rose in like a castle thing.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, he has like a weird rose on his shield. He's not the Knight of the Rose like the Tyrells, but he has like a rose on his shield because I think they're a lesser cousin's branch or some weird shit like that. You know, they're like a
Low Garden.
Yeah, they're like they were given the shields by Highgarden, right?
Right. So they're Low Garden.
Yeah, I unfortunately agree with Rust. I don't think that any of the gods exist, but that includes the Drowned God. But I would be curious if Patchface was having some kind of premonitions about the Ironborn, because doesn't he fucking talk about something?
I'm not sure that the gods are actually gods. I think they exist, whatever they are.
Okay. So you think just potentially maybe more something like a Blood Raven, like a supernatural being, but not like a god? Because I would call Blood Raven a supernatural being. He's a supernatural being. He's not. He's like a not normal, right? He's like a weird monster.
And whatever. And like whatever magic is behind, you know, the fire, the red religion.
Hang on really quick. So Ross Trimley, question for me: How about your hand be catching a sword with a gauntlet on? Okay, so this depends what you're kind of wearing underneath. So in sword fighting and in combat over the time, there has been a lot of different things that have been worn, and that the toughest, hardest to penetrate interior of a glove or gauntleted thing that I've ever heard of is chain. There's like chain-lined gloves, and I don't honestly know. I'd have to consult somebody in the fighting community who's a historian to tell you if these things were ever popular on like knights equipment and stuff like that. But you see them show up in like fencing and sword fighting, where they're smacking or catching or grabbing the blades and stuff like that, which does happen quite a bit. But like, for example, like in Boohurt or like Bohurt, like it's usually leather lined gauntlets. So if somebody swung a sharp sword at you and you tried to catch that fucked your hand up. Let's put it that way. Your hand would not.
Yeah. So I'm actually the guy that you want for that, because I'm not an A Song of Ice and Fire creator at all. I'm a history content creator. And so that you've got that regular gauntlet. If you're wearing a regular gauntlet, there's probably chain on the inside. But the more realistic thing is, if someone's swinging a sword down at your head and you're wearing a gauntlet, there is no reason to try to use the inside of your hand, right? Just use the outside of your hand.
Yeah,
because that's the part with all the armor on it.
That's good advice, because like the gauntlets we fight in, you can block a lot of things. Like people do get their hands crushed. It has happened, and people, but like a short sword or a long sword or anything like that, it is not going to go through, and even a sharp one is just not going to go through and cut you to pieces or nothing. Fingered gauntlets, different story, but a clam-shelled kind of thing, or like a, what the fuck they call them? There's a name for all the models are named after archaeological finds and stuff like that. But either way, things like that though, they would protect your hand quite well. So catching it on the interior, you run the risk of your hand being broken for sure, even if you've got something like a chain. Like if someone's wearing chain mail and I whack you really hard, it is still going to be very bad for you.
Exactly.
Usually there's padding and all kinds of stuff underneath, and George talks about that a little bit. I don't like. I honestly, not being a medieval history guy, I don't know exactly the accuracy of his descriptions.
So cloth
layered.
armor is actually really effective.
Yeah, it's popular too.
I can't remember their names. But the Greeks that wore those special helmets,
the hoplites,
they really liked. That's it.
Yeah,
they really liked their
hoplite warfare is often conducted in the linens, the linen armor and stuff like that. Persian
and like boiled leather. George has one thing where he messes up. He keeps referring to studded leather armor. There is no such thing. What that is that's actually a brigantine. And so it's layers of like a lobster tail of steel, sort of like a gauntlet.
Yeah, it's plates.
It's a lot more comfortable, and what you're seeing on the outside is just the leather studs that's holding it all together. So it's not studded leather armor.
He mixes a lot of time periods together because, like in the fighting community, you're allowed to mix kits. In terms of like a dude in your combat team might be in 16th century or 15th century or 14th century, or there's like a pretty wide range, and he does that too. So you get a lot of mixed crossover and stuff. But not to talk about armor for too long, because we can get really into the weeds with that. The scene where he's catching it, I am quite surprised he didn't deflect or like. So Victarion's armor is described as being full plate, right? It is like full on.
Yeah.
It is full on metal plate armor with metal or with chain garters. So everything's guarded by chain. And he's got cloth underneath that and leather or whatever. He could literally, the same way that if someone throws a punch at you and you do like the karate, like you swim, like you throw your arm out and you intercept and swim, and you can kind of hook in on them. That's incredibly common in armored combat fighting. If someone throws a sword throw at you and you don't want to deal with that shit, your whole arm is covered in armor. You could take that blow. You can run in and you can punch in through to their attack and you can grapple with them. He's huge. I don't know why he simply did not grab Suri and then just chuck him off the fucking ship, which he does kind of do that in the end, but there's not really much reason for him to grab with his hand. He just was kind of being he wanted to be like a badass or some shit like that. I don't know. He wanted, no, I'm dead serious. Like he wanted to be bad. He wanted to there's this dude that we fight with. I haven't fought in like over a year. I've been injured, but this dude that from Santa Barbara team that we fight with all the time and train with all the time, and his name is Joe. And Joe is fucking huge. He's like 6'3", 6'4". He's on the international team. He fought the fucking Russians. He fought for the American team. All over, and they were destroying like basically every international team, even the really good ones. And this dude will catch people's axes to just fucking punk you. Like you'll throw at him and he'll just catch that shit and fucking take it away and be like, what? And then he'll fucking Muay Thai kick you in the head. Or he's a bad motherfucker. And he'll do it like he will do kind of showboaty things to be bad. And so like that's how I think Victarion was trying to roll. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to ask George to be like 100% certain. But I felt like he was trying to be bad. He catches the thing and then he grabs Suri, he like throws him in the water. He was trying to be bad. And that cost him a hand.
Yeah, because I gotta be honest, I'm not even sure how far you can get your hand open in a gauntlet.
You can get it open far enough to grab stuff for sure. Like you can grab quite.
Okay.
And the stuff I fight in is reproduction, so it's meant to be pretty similar, but we're not fighting an exact. So I can't speak for if it's 100% identical, but it's meant to be very similar, and it certainly has the same articulation range as like the original types of gauntlets. So. You could definitely you could
because I know that with
it's highly restricted. Like you can't do like normal full hand grabbing, and this is why apparently in the Middle Ages fingered gauntlets were a little more popular, or like split gauntlets where you've got like almost like Spock hands. Like you see this shit in like Germany and shit on statues and stuff. Like all the armor nerd people, they've always showed me like these things exist in all these kits and stuff. No, the armor nerding is real. Like if you get into any sort of reenacting or like any fighting community in the Middle Ages, you will meet people who are real serious nerds. Like again, one of the other Santa Barbara guys, Lance literally wrote a book on medieval armor. He's like that level of nerd, and I respect that because I love history. I just nerd out about entirely different time periods, and so to me, it's like that's a lot of armor knowledge, and it's all based on archaeological finds and pictures and statues, and they're just trying to put back together basically what was around, and then there's large collections from later centuries, like you probably see like the Maximilian collection and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. So Ross is asking. He's got one more weapons question. He says, with warhammers, what stops people from hacking at the stick part? And the answer to that is you. First of all, there is going to be some metal guarding on that's attached to the wood. So just like flat pieces of metal that run along, to help prevent, someone from using a hatchet to cut it off. But when first of all, real Warhammer, just to be clear, looks nothing like what we see being shown in the show, or even what's described in the book. I think they describe...
Robert's got like the anime Warhammer, basically.
Yeah. So a real Warhammer has more of a head similar to like a claw hammer, like what you're going to find in your toolbox. Size-wise, that's the size of the head that you're usually dealing with, and it's pretty much just a spike. So you're kind of like opening up a lobster with it when you're taking on a knight. So yeah, so people they are free to hack at the wood, but remember we were probably dealing with old growth, oak or something like that. That's pretty durable. Plus, you've got the metal reinforcement on it. Plus, you're there. Like you can, if the guy starts slowly hacking away at the wooden shaft, you can pull out a smaller sword and make him stop doing that.
Well, I was also gonna say, so swords at least, and even probably smaller axes and stuff, because it's like, not that there are not lots of large axing heads, but they usually appear when people are not wearing plate armor. So warhammers appear at this time where people are fighting in a bunch of plate armor, and like Rusty said, or Russ said, they're very small compared to what you often see, and because they're like picks when they have the armor crush. And like for example, we don't use armor our warhammers in the armored combat fighting. Some people can use there's like pole hammer pseudo approximation kind of stuff. There's things like that, but a lot of times it's not around because of literally how effective it is and at damaging the equipment, or because a bunch of them were made with big spikes on them for penetration. And swords. Likewise, they're much more for stabbing at people, and you're not going to be essentially chopping into someone's wooden or like metal hafted weapon, because it could damage your sword, and you'd be much better off taking your time to target that strike and to stick them somewhere like in a gappy area. So I would say it's like if you're going to see someone chopping at halves, it's going to be something bigger with more of an ability to chop. And then when everyone's wearing plate armor and stuff like that, the weapons that I kind of think of that take up that sort of area are more like things like the bill hooks and the big long pole axes and stuff like that. It's just probably not.
The bill and the halberd are just so much fun.
I'm gonna have to ask a medieval historian on that one, but to me, it's like just from the fighting I do and just from knowing how swords were used, I don't think it's likely that someone's going to be trying to chop and actually break that sort of stuff. And then in like an armored combat, what breaks hafts is two-handed axes, and they're just a little less prevalent because pole hammers are a thing. With the pole hammer, you got the poleaxe head with like or you've got like a hammer head and then like a spike or like a big spike that sticks at the top, and it's more or less just a way more versatile weapon, so you're not seeing as much like dude with giant axe, you know. But George is more fun. George is like we got everything, you know. So in George R. R. Martin's world, you actually kind of get, I want to say, like weapons matchups and like armor sets matchups that you would not really see as much of in real life. You'd see more of different stylistic stuff.
Yeah, there's also the like consideration of he's got to do what like looks cool or will sound cool as you're reading it, more so than what is accurate.
Hey, what's going on, Zeb?
Yep.
Hey, Zara now.
Oh, Zara, how's it going? I did not see you there till just a moment ago. I had the volume incredibly high, so your initial talk was very loud. We were talking about the Ironborn in general. We were off in the weapons train, but since you're here, I want to take this opportunity to shift the topic over to Euron. Did you read much of the Euron?
Stay on target.
Yeah. Did you read much of the Euron?
Stay on target.
Of the Euron chapters? Because we can talk about Euron's armor and stuff. We can talk about his Valyrian play. I just want to keep us somewhere in the Ironborn territory.
Because he talks about the whole like being afraid to wear your armor for naval combat.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
But yeah, do you got any Euron talk for us, Zar?
I still haven't read any of the... Well, no, I've read the first 2-3 books. I don't know, I was 14. I was 14. I haven't had time since. I've had like a full-time job and shit. So, I will say, you want as little armor as possible while you're sailing, because armor is more likely to get you drowned than it is to protect you as you're trying to board. There's a reason that armor was
that like about that when he puts his, because he fights in metal armor and he thinks about how you're basically like you're a pussy if you are afraid of drowning.
I don't know. It's one of those like.
No, he makes that point though. He's like, if you're in the armor, you'll
drown.
He does. He calls everyone else scared because everyone else is wearing leathers. They don't want to put on armor, except for Suri. Suri is the only one who puts on armor. Everyone else on the ship has leathers.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where it's like it is a personal calculus you have to make of what is a bigger danger to me, that dude with his fucking dusik or his cutlass or whatever, or me fucking up boarding and falling into the ocean, or getting just shoved off the boat into the water. Like, which is a bigger threat to me?
So, on that note, and Russ, do you guys think that Euron would drown in his armor? Is that a possibility? That's
do we think that that's where the story's headed?
I just guess that's where I was going with all of this. Since we were talking about armor, I wanted to talk about Euron's armor.
Yeah. That's a really good question.
The Valyrian steel armor.
Sorry, Andy.
The Valyrian steel armor that Euron describes Euron wearing is like a mail shirt, like a shirt of mail armor.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Now we know Valyrian steel is much lighter than normal steel.
Now, is it mail? I thought it was scaled. I thought it was like scaled armor, like a bunch.
Oh yeah,
scaled.
It's scaled.
Which means like mail is fucking heavy enough. Like, don't get me wrong. I have a chainmail shirt. It is. I would not survive trying to swim far in that shit. And I'm usually a pretty good swimmer, but I would drown probably trying to swim any good distance of that shit.
It's heavy. And it binds your movement, and it makes it so that even if you can stay afloat for a bit, you are going to expend a lot more energy staying afloat, and you're going to get too tired, and you're going to drown that way.
So actually, one side note I have to interject just really fast. Ross asked if there was medieval nunchucks, and the answer is I don't believe so. But what there is like the crazy looking flails, and the peasants often use them and shit. So you should look up the medieval flails.
That's true.
I actually made a flail stick. They're very, very fun. You can just go down to Home Depot and just get like a 6-foot cut of like dowel, like that round like inch dowel, and then cut it, punch into the top. with an eye hole screw, punch in the other top with an eye hole screw, put a chain between it, and you got yourself a flail on a stick. So that works. That's the medieval nunchuck, as far as I know. So I say
now don't take a lesson as to how strong medieval weapons were based on something that you made from Home Depot.
Yeah, no, exactly. The medieval flails are terrifying looking. I was like, look, you could look them up on the internet. There's pictures of them. They look incredibly scary, and they have spikes, mind you. They have big spikes sticking out.
Yeah. But because what you're getting from Home Depot is probably pine. Mm-hmm. And most weapons are going to be built out of like some pretty solid, and this is old growth oak as well.
Yeah, it's pine and petroleum, and mostly petroleum.
But back to the Euron though, the armor.
The recipe for Greek fire?
It's petroleum, just petroleum. That's all it is.
Pine and petroleum.
I will say though, if you look at how the armor is described, I have the chapter pulled up here. So if you want the description.
Yeah, please. Describe it, because I thought it was like a shirt made of scales, basically, metal scales.
Yeah, I'll read the passage here. Euron Crowseye stood upon the deck of silence, clad in a suit of black scale armor like nothing Aaron had ever seen before. Dark as smoke it was, but Euron wore it as easily as if it was the thinnest silk. The scales were edged in red gold and gleamed and shimmered when they moved. Patterns could be seen within the metal, whorls and glyphs and arcane symbols folded into the steel. Valyrian steel, the damn hair knew. His armor is Valyrian steel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he has Valyrian steel scale, so even if it's lighter...
But that's Euron, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Euron.
Not Victarion.
That's Euron.
Okay.
Aaron's seeing it, though. It's just Euron's wearing the armor.
Right.
Yeah.
This is from the Forsaken sample chapter.
Yeah. It's tough to remember all of them because, like, what was it? 7 kids from the loins of Quellen Greyjoy or whatever it was, or 100 kids.
9.
9, yeah, 9. Yeah. See, it was a fuck ton of kids from the loins of Quellen Greyjoy. It was a lot of siblings, and not all of them are alive, but there was 4 when Balon was alive. I
Balon was the 4th.
Yeah, there's
Balon
4.
Was number 4.
So now there's still 3 siblings alive, and there's Asha and her brother. And there's all the odd randos, and I love the randos, to be quite honest. Cal the Maid, and we got like the Cleftjaw, and there's the Wolf One Ear, there's the Red Oarsman, there's the Cods, and there's just a grip of these fuckers. But well, we can talk about everybody else later. I didn't know if we wanted to go back to the armor and just because I thought it would be a funny ending if he drowned in the armor, but
I think it's still likely to make him drown. But also, it's a little rich if he's telling everyone else that they're cowards for going into battle unarmored when he is so bitch made that he's too scared to fight without his magic armor. It's I would rather have magic armor than just rely on my skill as a pirate to fight. That's bitch made behavior. So, you guys are cowards, as he's sitting there in his fucking magic armor. Get fucked.
Well, and I think it would be an interesting.
But thing. I'm a little confused here, though.
Go ahead. Sorry.
We're trying to figure out if Victarion would drown in his armor, right?
No, not Victarion. Euron. So Euron rolls up in the Valerian
that's why
steel.
I was confused.
Yeah, Victarion,
I thought we were talking about Victarion, and then I wasn't sure why we kept describing Euron's armor.
No, Victarion does.
We're good.
Victarion does.
I'm no longer confused.
He does talk about the drowning, though, so that's kind of why it makes me wonder if one or more of them would die of the drowning. Maybe that's how they die together. That'd be an interesting combo right there, right?
Ooh.
They get chucked into the water and Euron can swim, but Victarion grabs onto his leg and they just go down. I don't know.
But I think Euron has a pact with the drowned god, or at least he's got a pact with something. He's got a pact with something evil.
With the Kraken, that's for sure. I think
so. Yeah.
I think if Chekhov's Krakens, I think the blood theory is true, the Preston Jacobs blood theory,
So I think that Victarion's going to try to take Euron with him, and then the Kraken is going to save Euron's life, and Euron's basically going to go back up to the surface, like giving Victarion the middle finger.
That would be twisted. That would be twisted as fuck if they fall off the ship and Euron ditches the Valyrian steel armor and he's got to swim for the surface and Victarion grabs his leg and they start going down and the Kraken grabs Victarion and squeezes him to death and he lets go. That would be absurd. I'm sold. I'm fucking sold.
Jesus Christ.
That's the fanfic I want. That's the fanfic I want right there.
No, wow. that's gonna be like the first chapter of Winds of Winter.
No, I'm serious. That's lit. Like that's really cool. If that's how the battle goes.
That's the prologue chapter.
I would totally tolerate Euron surviving his encounter with Victarion and not dying as the weird brothers die together or whatever. You know, if it was something cool like that. You know, I'm so curious to see how George writes it, to see who survives, and because they have to fight at a certain point, and it's like that's why I feel like they're going to fight in a naval battle. Like there's going to be a follow-up naval battle to the Battle of Blood, like with the new ascendant fleets from both sides, because the Ironborn under Euron will have all of the ships that survive from defeating the Red Wine fleet. Anything they capture and refit, they'll basically have the biggest fleet in Westeros, and they'll be unstoppable. Right? And they'll have Krakens, you know, in theory. And then what you're going to have on the other side is you're going to have Victarion is going to be leading all of the ships that he's managed to get a hold of, plus there's probably the Volantian fleet. And I think that he's going to end up as Dany's Lord Captain of all fleets. And, like, he's going to be master of all the ships. And so he himself is going to have this insanely massive fleet, at least the way I think of it. And he's going to have potentially like a dragon or something, or dragons, because I don't know exactly how they're going to handle transporting the dragons around. You know, will they fly with Dany over land? Will she put them on the ships? And you know, I'm not. Who knows? Will she fly around the ships with them? It's all a mystery.
Very honest, I don't know if we'll get to that point by the end of Winds. Gonna be extremely real.
I don't know either. I'm not 100% certain. To me, I feel like that's what it's gonna be, right? Like I feel like Winds has to end with Daenerys making landfall. I'm pretty sure it might end further than that, but that's why. And this battle that I'm describing has to happen before she makes landfall in Westeros, because the Battle of Blood's gonna happen at the bottom of like Dorne or whatever, right? Well, no, not quite the bottom, not quite the bottom of Dorne. Yeah, not about the bottom of Dorne, but you know, it's happened at the bottom of Westeros. So Euron is going to be over there, and then he's going to have the option to basically continue sailing all the way around as much as he wants. I don't think he's going to conduct a massive land campaign. I think it's going to be a sacking of various assets and then a sea campaign. And I think that sea campaign is going to run right into Daenerys' return. He's a sea guy. He's got Krakens. I think he's going to King's Landing by sea, and Daenerys, because she has to cross a continent,
I agree with
King's Landing by sea.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree with you. That's not a thing I'm like disagreeing. That Euron definitely wants to get his hand on Daenerys as soon as possible, and is awaiting Victarion to return with her.
Hang on 1 second. So Kakaro, I cannot unfortunately bring you onto the chat to deliver a theory because we are in a private chat for the INC server. But you could type out as much as you want, and I will try to read it out. If Euron is going to summon fireworms, then I'm very curious. So just punch it in there and see if you can sum it up in like a couple paragraphs, and we'll read it out, and we'll see what we think about it. But continue. Sorry.
Wait, are we on a stream right now?
Yes, we're on a stream right now. You've been streaming.
We are on a stream right now.
I was just waiting for an opportunity to tell Reagan Andy that we asked you two about restarting D&D in like April.
Yes, we need to. Yeah.
Hit me up.
I'm buying a house in March, and then when that's done in April, I will like have time and energy.
Okay.
Nice.
That's cool. Yeah, just either link us in the chat for the D&D so I see it, because I don't check it's not that I'm not on Discord, it's that I just don't usually check things if I'm not getting an alert.
Yep, I'll tag you.
Yeah, just tell me kind of what days. April is usually a lot of family birthdays happen then, so I kind of got to plan around that. But
yeah,
it should be fine. So
Should be fine.
All right, cool.
And you're welcome to stay and talk about more of this stuff if you want to. It's all.
No, I have finally started watching a Star Trek, and so I was gonna get back to that.
Okay. Which Star Trek? Which Star? I gotta know which Star Trek.
Well, I finished all of Lower Decks, so now I'm watching Deep Space Nine.
That's phenomenal. You've made the right choices in life. You have my blessing. You are free to go. All right, love you, Czar. I'll see you later.
Love you too. Bye.
We need to talk about Star Trek later, though.
We can. Honestly, I wouldn't mind doing a Star Trek stream at some point because, like a long time ago, I used to have Trek videos on the channel. It was just it was just like it got to be much. Oh, sorry, I whacked my microphone. It got to be much more Ice and Fire stuff. But
later. Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
So continue on with what we were saying. We were talking about Euron and the armors. We were talking about Victarion, and I was pitching the battle of them colliding. But if there's another thought, like. I don't know if you guys appeal to more of the show route, as weird as that sounds, to think of but maybe of the Cersei Euron alliance. Like, does she cave to him and they make a pact and they destroy the Tyrells together? Like, I don't know. Pitch it to me, I guess, is what I'm saying.
No, here's like the thing. My only issue is that, like, I agree in general that Euron is not really that invested in a campaign in Westeros. He wants the dragons that Daenerys has and wants for Vic to return as soon as possible and wants to intercept him. That being said, there is a reason why he hasn't gone, and it's because he needs the support of the Ironborn, and the Ironborn are greedy motherfuckers who want stuff. Sorry, language, but still. Like, the entire reason why Euron didn't go himself, and why we even had the discussion about what would Victarion do, is because Euron needs to stay back and appease the Ironborn with riches. So I think at some point he will have to do and deviate and go probably for the Reach, which is the best target he currently has.
Have you two read The Expanse?
I've not read it, but I saw the show. So my question would be: is any portion of the show anything like the book, or is it one of those non-comparable materials?
The show is as close as you could make it.
Okay, so it's
without having to do.
So it's
good. It's a good show.
Reasonable approximation.
Yeah, in the books, there ends up being this big time jump, and the TV series cut off before that happened. So just like the last two books aren't covered in the show, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, I'm just saying the reason I was bringing it up is I'm in the middle of rereading The Expanse, and this and Euron really reminds me of Marco and Naros, the head of the organization that drops all the rocks on Earth.
Yeah, the mega space pirate guy.
Yeah, exactly. The way that he's able to like manipulate people, even like from afar, and over the course of years, just through like the pattern of abuse that he's already put them through, stuff like that. It's I just got that sensation that
really
felt
quick,
like the same person to me.
I want to say thank you to Big Hat Legion for the $5. That's awesome. I always appreciate any money from the chat stream.
Super chat,
because I can use it to buy cat food, and my cat he has to eat special food because he is old. The kittens don't have to eat special food, but the old cat has to eat special food, and it's very expensive. It used to be less expensive, but it was like $80 for a pallet of this. Like they give you like a little cardboard pallet of cans of this shit, and so it's like anything.
Is
helps.
it
anything helps.
the
Let's
Hill?
put it that way. Hill's diet, Hill's CD diet.
Hill brand.
Yep, Hill's CD diet for
mine's on
health. Yeah.
My elderly cat is on the Hill multi-care stress prescription food.
Yeah.
So
my cat's
I feel your pain on the.
He's been having some bladder
expense.
issues that have been recurring throughout his life. He's a male cat, so he does that with his blood and his pee and stuff, and so it's like he might have to do some stress stuff. So I don't know if they'll give me food for it or medicine, but either way, yeah. Cats are nice, but they definitely, he's like a He has like old cat problems, you know.
Yeah. And my Siamese is 13-ish, probably.
Yep, that's about the same age as my cat. Boot's about 13 years old. As I got him when maybe he's actually a little bit older than that. I got him when I was about 23. I'm about 35 now. So maybe I was 22. So maybe 13, yeah, 12, 13. So it might not be quite that old. Somewhere in that range though. But anyhow,
found this one on the street about a year and a half ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
We had an old cat that adopted us when I was a kid. An old girl cat. She would like clean. She would like clean my hair when I was a kid. It was very funny. Yeah. Really quick. So the Ironborn. Then we'll get off into cat territory. Although that's an interesting. I wanted to make a video about all the cats in A Song of Ice and Fire and all the references to cats, but with the battle, what was the thoughts about Euron and Victarion meeting up? What do
Euron and Victarion
Big Hat
meeting
Legion,
up.
you probably can be older than all of us, Big Hat Legion. There's the cool thing about this fandom is that the books came out in '93, so I was like 3 years old, right? Which means that like George himself wasn't really an old man or nothing. So like the age range for enjoying the books is actually like it's like Tolkien-esque, you know, in terms of like who doesn't love Lord of the Rings? Your granddad loves it, but also your cousin loves it, right? You know, like
yeah.
You know, so yeah, I'm 35, so that means I was young when the books was written, but even if you're 50 or 60, and that you're well within the age range of where it totally makes sense to be in the fandom.
Yeah,
it's like Star Wars. Like Star Wars.
Indeed.
Who doesn't love Star Wars, right? My uncle's old. He's, my parents they're old. Or I don't know what the fuck. My dad's probably dead, but my mom is in her 60s. Her brother's in her 60s. They love Star Wars. You know, they grew up. They were. They were in the movie theater.
I'm getting some sound issues in the chat, so I'm just gonna reboot my Discord real quick. So I'll be popping out and popping back in.
Okay.
Ross Tremblay, I'm like 42 or 43. Yeah, see, that's because you would have been like one generation older than me or whatever, you know, or something like that. You would have been 13 when the books came out, right, or somewhere around then. So
something like that.
Yeah. So
no, it's like it's very. It depends. Like the fandom isn't just for young people.
Yeah.
Like,
See,
definitely not.
Big Hat Legion is 9 and 30, so he's actually younger than Ross Tremblay. But we're all in the same age group, which is the Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, George R.R. Martin, nerd shit, Star Trek from the 90s age group. 1981, that's a good year, Ross Tremblay. So when I was growing up, I played the guitar like a lot, right? So I mean, I nowadays I do like intellectual shit and like historical reading and stuff a lot. But when I was much younger, I did that sometimes, mostly on World War II, but mostly I played the guitar. And everything from the 80s I loved. Like, if you remember like the Malmsteen and all that sort of stuff, I play all that shit. Metallica, Iron Maiden, Slayer, any of those things. I played all those things. So the 80s was a fantastic time. So those are good years, guys. Those are good years. Some of the best years in metal right there. No, I'm serious. Like, there's wonderful metal from like all over, and there's great new bands and shit like that too. But like, I think everyone from the new, they love all that era because it was so formative. Like how all those guys loved all the previous eras. Like fantasy metal from nowadays or from the like mid 2000s, they love Iron Maiden. They're all, if you listen to any of the stuff that was like coming out of Europe, like that was very popular in the U.S., like the Sonata Arctica or like Rhapsody of Fire, like that stuff. Dragon Force. I used to be able to play Dragon Force a little bit, fucking like the Fire and the Flames stuff, which I wasn't playing that, but the Fear of the Storm, I could play the tapping in the middle of the Fear of the Storm thing. That's one of the tapping things when I was like learning to do tapping that I learned. I learned to play the solo from the Valley of the Damned. If you guys remember the Valley of the Damned, that was a hard solo to learn. I probably could not play that no more, but let's put it that way. I don't even have a regular guitar anymore. My S series is in pieces. I have a 6-string Ibanez baritone with EMGs, and it's a bit harder to play shred, arpeggio kind of shit on the baritone. I can still do it, but it's not as easy as on that regular S series. What would Daenerys' lightsaber be? I have no idea. Probably
Yeah, it's clearly violet.
Yeah,
no, I agree with Dave.
Dark purple black, kind of something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so moving on.
Yeah,
we're off in extreme nostalgia. Extreme nostalgia.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. It's fun. This is why we come here for the streams. The Jamie Talk stream was like this too. It was like 10% Jamie Talk, 10% stuff in the books and stuff around fantasy or whatever.
Yeah.
So I did want to talk about, because I am going to jump off maybe within the next 30 minutes to an hour or so. There's going to be the INC are going to be streaming, and I was going to maybe go over there and say hi to them if they want company, or just bother them in the chat. But prior to that, I want to talk about all the random Ironborn people. So can you guys name off just absurdly random Ironborn? Well, we should do that for a bit and just talk about some of the really weird ones.
There's a guy called Torvald Browntooth that's running around with Euron.
Okay, Torvald Browntooth, I like that. Yeah, he's one of the ones that hangs out with the Red Oarsmen in that crowd.
Yeah, it's him, Red Oarsman, left hand Lucas Cod. There's also some dude called Pinchface John Meyer.
There we go. Okay, yeah. So these are the ones. Yeah, we're trying to remember all the really obscure ones. Who is the ones that die with Theon Greyjoy at Winterfell? There's a couple. One of them is Black Lauren, I thought was. Did he die?
Yes,
he's a renowned axe fighter, right? He's one of the good axe fighters, yeah? Okay, Big Hat Legion says Cotter Pike. There we go. We got Cotter Pike. He's also on the wall. He's not actually in the Ironborn rank, so he's another level of, Ironborn element floating out there we could talk about.
Yeah. To be fair, I think Pike, if we're gonna veer to Cotter Pike, I think he is gone. I think Hardhome is not leaving much room for him.
I would agree. Rust, do you have ideas about Cotter Pike and Hardhome? Do you have any wacky theories on that, or have you heard anything interesting? Do you think he's dead? Do you think he's alive?
I don't know as far as Cotter Pike is concerned. Let me see. There was something that my brain was going down the path of.
Yeah, Ross Trimley says,
but I don't remember what it was.
And then Dave said Dagmar Cleftjaw is pretty metal. I agree. Dagmar Cleftjaw is very
Dagmar Cleftjaw, that's true. Oh, right. So who's the guy that fucking Theon accidentally shoots in the belly with an arrow?
He's a cod, right? He's a cod.
Todrick. No, he's not a cod. The guy that is a cod... There's a cod that he was arguing with, and that's the guy that ultimately ends up killing him. That's Fish Whiskers, old Meereen Botley.
Okay. Now, who's the other guy who got shot then? What's his house? Those who don't have one.
I don't think he has a house.
He's just a guy.
Todrick, I think his name is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's not mentioned to be born into a big family.
Are the children of thralls? Are the children of thralls free to become Ironborn, or are children of thralls also thralls?
Yeah, children of thralls are born free.
That's what I thought. Yeah, so he could be a children of a thrall kid, and he might not have a name. He's just a guy trying to make a name for himself, basically.
Interesting.
Yes, so that's one of the differences between Essosi slavery and thraldom.
Yeah.
If the children of thralls are born on the islands, apparently, they're free.
Yeah. Your life still probably sucks. You still probably fish or, pull an oar, but at least you do it, for yourself. Not because you're just, told to.
Also, the children of thralls cannot be taken from their parents until they are at least 7 years old.
Okay. So maybe they're not free then. Oh, wow.
Oh, well, at least they're progressive.
Right.
Yeah, no, thraldom is also forbidden in Bravo, so the Drabrosi are not.
Yeah, so they consider it
allowing
slavery,
this shit. Yeah, it's basically considered slavery. But yeah, that's also gonna be a conflict with Victarion, but we've already talked with Victarion about a lot. Yeah, there's lots of these colorful characters that people mention, and obviously some people wonder, is the reader planning something? Because, the last time we saw the reader, just before the big meeting where he calls out Euron a lot, he was like plotting with like a couple of other Ironborn lords.
I guess
like he was speaking with them softly.
I kind of feel like the readers got nothing personally, and that Euron might murk him or something. I don't know. I love the reader, but I don't know that I have very high hopes for the reader. Dave,
Yeah.
Dave, who says he's got to go. Unfortunately, we'll see you later, Dave. Wanted to know about Torrhen Square. And so I think if we're ever going to learn more about Torrhen Square, I don't know that we're going to learn more about it through any of the Ironborn. It was just besieged more or less to be a distraction, as what I thought. Theon kind of orders Dagmar Cleftjaw to put it to siege with more or less like nobody in tow. And then Roderick Cassell rides out to stop it. And that's when Theon shows up and does his little trick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to go back to Torrhen Square at any point with the Ironborn. I mean, I think they're done in the north for probably the rest of the series.
I mean, you say that, but the Ironborn still hold. Torrhen Square is still being held by Dagmar Cleftjaw at this very point.
Is it still being besieged? You don't think he's going to leave and go somewhere
No,
else?
it's not besieged. So what happened was,
Did he take it?
Dagmar took it in the aftermath of the Boltons killing everyone.
I didn't know that. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, no, Dagmar is there. That's why, like, there's a lot of theories about Dagmar and Torrhen Square.
That's fascinating. Then I had no idea. If that's true, then I wonder, how he took it. It probably is he just did some fun trickery, or they just surrendered because they just had no idea what was going on. He made himself look like a lot more people or something. But no, they might encounter him, right? It's totally possible. In theory, Theon's up there in the north. He could get them Torrhen Square in a heartbeat without any fuss.
You see, I think the Theon is gonna get like. I think Theon will get like sacrificed, quote unquote, to the tree, but it's actually gonna be Arnulf Karstark to do like the deception of, oh look, he looks like that old guy. Let's dress him up like Karstark and take Winterfell like that. I think
I could see that being a likely one.
And then after that, I do think that Theon is going to be used as a bargaining chip to also get Torrhen Square to no longer get liberated, because that's one of the pitches that got Daenerys so much support, is that he marched against the Ironborn.
So Ross. Really quick, Ross says that he thinks the Stannis horses might be for Torrhen Square, to ride to Torrhen Square. What do you think about that? That he's reserved horses for after the battle to ride fast on Torrhen Square and not on the Dreadfort? Because I've always heard the Dreadfort as where he's going to take the horses.
To be honest, I mean, part of those horses are already taken, because it's like Justin Massey is going with Alysanne Mormont to bring quote unquote Arya Stark to the wall.
Yeah, but that's like just a couple of them.
And Tycho is also going with them.
That's like a handful of horses, right? Like they could probably do that on the horses that Tycho.
I think it's like 10 horses that they take.
I don't know, how many horses did he keep alive then, or keep around?
Let me actually get the Theon chapter for you.
No, because like some people have the theory about this, where it's like there's some horses and I thought it was like 60 horses. I thought it was a considerable amount of horses he had floating around.
Tycho is such an interesting character.
Tycho Nestorius, the Braavosi banker guy.
Yeah. Him and his giant hat.
I was just gonna say, doesn't he have the big weird hat?
Yes,
I see him. The way I see him in my head is he's played by the same character that they met with in the show. So the guy who played Mycroft in the Sherlock series. So it's that same actor, and he's got like a Cat in the Hat style hat on. But I think the book says that it's a brimless hat, so it's not. There's no brim on this Cat in the Hat style hat. It's just a big giant stovepipe of, and I'm assuming that it's brightly colored shag. So it looks like something that he would have made had he hunted and skinned one of the denizens of Monsters University or something like that. That's how I visualize him.
Oh Lord. Really quick.
What I think you're thinking about is that there's like 64 horses left, in the village, if I remember correctly, from the whole campaign.
Yeah, so some people, I believe Preston was one of them, but I've heard this before, I thought too, that something about the horses being used for a strike on the Dreadfort, because the Dreadfort, we know, doesn't have a lot of people in it right now.
Yes.
Right.
And
Yeah,
Theon knows how to get in theory. He can sneak him in.
Yeah, that's one of the theories I think is a thing, and I think one of the other things is that they're gonna use some of the bargaining chips to also get the Ironborn and Torrent Square to side with them, if not to just
maybe
give
to
up
take
the castle.
to take the Ironborn with him. That's very interesting. You know, he could go to Torrent Square and then to the Dreadfort or something in a mad dash.
Yeah, I
That's
think that's a possibility.
pretty wild. That's pretty wild. I will say that's a pretty.
I don't see Stannis being pragmatic enough to ally himself with some Ironborn.
He's done it though, right?
I mean, yes, he's done it. Like
Yeah,
Asha has
he's
bent
already
the
done it.
knee
He's
to
got
him.
Asha, and he's been trading her around, you know, and
Yeah, Asha's already bent the knee to him.
yeah.
He has already the pretender he needs for like.
Because he sends them, or it's not her. Who does he send? He sends people away. You were just saying, and he sends people back with.
Justin Massey with Alysanne Mormont and a couple of other men. They're sent away to bring Jane Poole, or Arya Stark, as they think, to the Wall.
I thought he was sending Asha with him, but no, he has her kept as a prisoner still, I think, right?
No, Asha is going to fight in the Battle of Ice, and then after that, we don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
But we know there's some of the men that Asha had survived, and then there's also, Tris Botley is there, so he's also like an important lord for Stannis. So Stannis is not opposed to working with them.
Yeah, he's got connections though with the Ironborn. And it kind of makes sense because So this is also, I don't know if you guys have watched the Moonman theory. He's kind of got the opinion that Stannis is trying to negotiate as much power as possible for himself and make himself a factor, And so if he had the support of a lot of Ironborn people, that's just more, more support for Stannis to make himself more of a factor in any negotiations or battles or whatever comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, the Ironborn in
the Red
North
Woman would have to
still,
talk him into it.
Yeah, the Ironborn in the North are still going to be a factor, is all I'm saying. They're still going to be a factor in that whole story. It's going to be where the Ironborn have impact in wins is the Reach on one hand, so we'll see Sam mention them a lot, I think.
Yeah, so do you guys think that they're going to burn down that Three Towers place? I'm forgetting what it's, the Caswells or Cadwells, or I don't know what the hell.
Custane.
House Custane. Yeah, House Custane. Three Towers.
Caswell is Bitterbridge.
Yeah,
Three Towers. No, I don't know if they're gonna burn down Three Towers.
Someone sees Three Towers burning in a vision or something like that, and I thought Euron was a likely candidate for that operation.
Melisandre has that kind of vision, but she sees she sees fire in a tower, but she doesn't know which tower that is.
Okay.
So it's not
I
Three Towers. That's
Three
Preston
Towers
says.
burning, yeah, but...
So Preston says that the vision looks more like Three Towers than Old Town. But
okay.
so
that's just a theory. We don't actually know if she saw Three Towers. That's just a theory.
No, as far as I know, we don't know if she saw Three Towers, the castle. We know there was a vision with a tower that's burning. And Preston says that sounds more like Three Towers than Old Town. Although, I'm going to be real, it's more likely to refer to Old Town.
Probably Old Town then, yeah. It's been a while, and so for some reason that was kind of blended together in my head. Right, I thought for some reason one of them had actually seen, because I know Sam points out House Castane, and that's probably why I thought that theory was true. Is that
yes, because we see the Castle of Three Towers in Sam 5, at the beginning.
That's kind of what made me think that it might come into play, is that he was going on about it. But it was only that one line. He's like, it's Three Towers, House Castane. So it's just kind of like a line,
Yeah, to be fair, I think it was only put there to signify how close they are already getting to Old Town, because on the maps, Three Towers is like on one side of Whispering Sound, like at the entrance of it, from if you come from the south or southeast. And I think it was just put there to like, give us like, oh, you can go to the map in that George has included in the books, and you can see where he is exactly in that point. Because before that, it was pretty hard. Because, for example, Maester Aemon in the show, he dies at the wall, but in the books, he dies like at sea, off the coast of Dorne.
Yeah.
And it's like super hot, apparently.
They put him in a barrel of rum.
Yep, they put him in a barrel of rum.
If only we could all be so lucky when we die.
And when I'm dead, don't bury me at all. Just pickle my bones in alcohol.
There you go.
A jar of rum at my head and feet, and then I'm sure my bones will keep.
So, do we have any other Ironborn we want to hit up before we roll up the stream, or is that kind of all we could think of?
We can, as far as Ironborn,
there's lots out there. I don't even know if we named all the obscure ones. We knocked off a bunch of them, but we didn't ramble about all of them. We named a lot of them.
I mean, there's a lot, but basically you only have like 3 scenarios where they become important, and we kind of discussed all of them like at the beginning of Winds, and it's Meereen, the Reach, and the North. And we kind of discussed all of it.
What about you, Russ? Do you have any additional Ironborn questions, or comments, or theories that you've heard, even? Is Rusty still there? Is Rusty there?
Rust?
I can hear you now.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
It was dropping out.
I didn't know if you had any additional Ironborn questions or comments or theories that you wanted to pitch out there.
No, that I'm walking out of this knowing more about the Ironborn than I did walking in.
Well, at least we did something. Then we got
right.
we got Russ we got Russ some more Ironborn trivia. Chat if
No, I legitimately enjoyed this. This was a good time.
It's fun. Sometimes it's just fun to rant about stuff, and I learned new things too. Where I'm just like, it's always good to kind of go back and ramble about the book series, right? But if there's no more questions in the chat, if you guys got one more question or something, throw it out there. But otherwise, we're probably gonna roll it up in here in a second. But I don't know. I know, Andi, you don't have any videos out yet, right? Because I remember you were working on a Rhaegar thing a long time ago. Did you ever?
Yes, I am working on a Rhaegar video, but I have a couple of other things planned out.
Okay, yeah. Well, if you ever get videos out there, let me know. We'll plug your channel. But Russ, feel free to plug your either your YouTube or I don't know. Were you on TikTok or Instagram? What was your other venue? I
was mostly on TikTok. It's been quite a while since I've posted, but I don't currently have anything to plug. No.
Okay, no worries.
Other than I run Blaze and Bev Crusher over on Facebook. If people care, they can go do that. It's about weed and Star Trek.
Yeah, if you're into a big Facebook group, go check it out. I'm barely active on Facebook, but I was in the Facebook group when I was active on Facebook. So. All right, well, we'll call it there then, and then we will see you guys next time. We'll probably have some kind of stream or something. I don't know, maybe next week after that. I know Taco said he wanted to come on and chat at some point, and I figured there's always more. There's always more characters or nonsense or whatever we can talk about. So we'll do something later on.
Oh, yeah.
But thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks you guys for coming on and chatting. And
thanks for the invite, man.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks to you.
We'll see everyone next time.
All right. You have a good one.
All right.